This week, the British royal family held a Catholic funeral for one of its own, the first in 3 centuries. And President Donald Trump makes a second state visit to the UK. Reporting from London, senior correspondent for the National Catholic Register, Edward Pentin. Ed, before we get to the UK news, Pope Leo granted that interview to Mrs. Allen over there at Crux, Elise Allen, and asked him about the LGBT controversies in the church. Here's what he had to say. I want your reaction. "I don't have a plan at the moment," Pope Leo said. "I was asked about that already a couple of times during these first couple of months about the LGBT issue. People want the church doctrine to change, want attitudes to change. I think we have to change attitudes before we even think about changing what the church says about any given question. I find it highly unlikely, certainly in the near future, that the church's doctrine in terms of what the church teaches about sexuality, what the church teaches about marriage, will change." Edward, teaching on sexuality can't change until attitudes can change. This is an interesting construction here. Your reaction to this?
Well, it's interesting, Raymond, because I talked to Jose Antonio Reta, who wrote a book last year, some people may remember, critical of the fiducia supplicans called The Breached Dam. And he said that he was also very perplexed by the Pope's comments and his suggestion that it would be highly unlikely that the church's teaching on sexuality and marriage will change in the near future. And he said the point is not whether such a change is likely or unlikely. The church's teaching in these areas cannot change at all. And he said that the Pope should really affirm with absolute clarity, leaving no room for doubt or ambiguity. So I think there is rather some disappointment with the Pope's comments in certain quarters, because he appears to be carrying on the line of Pope Francis, which sort of left everything open to ambiguity and confusion on this matter.
Yeah, because he later does say we have to support traditional marriage, and that the society and the church, this is the church's mission and it's important in society. But then there's this odd construction. And look, interviews have a way of revealing the deep thoughts of people and the background of ideas. And it's why, frankly, it's very dangerous for a pope to sit for an interview, particularly an extended one, because they can get dragged into areas they have no control over and, frankly, aren't prepared for. But this should have been a no-brainer. I mean, no, the church teaching on sexuality is not going to change. But that introduction of this idea that if attitudes change, well, then you might be able to talk about changing church teaching. Are we going to offer that to the polygamists? I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, there are people who have friends with benefits all over the world. Is that going to be the church teaching because it's widely accepted and the attitude has changed? I think it's the opposite. We owe the Romans an apology. If that's the case, Ed, I'll give you the last word on this.
Yes, well, it's interesting you say that about the interview too, because I think I was talking to a priest earlier in Rome who said that, why do popes give these interviews? Their job is to teach. It's not really to give interviews. And this idea that the Pope must give this long interview is sort of seen as not really the sort of thing that the Pope should be doing. And it's very much a sort of hangover from the past. And perhaps it's time to move on from that.
Yeah. I have to say, I liked the days when the Pope came out and did an event, issued a motu proprio or an encyclical, and stayed home otherwise. Run the church. It needs running. The Duchess of Kent passed away September 4th at age 92. She was the first British royal, Ed, you know this more than anyone, to be received into the Catholic Church since the 17th century. On Tuesday, King Charles attended her funeral, and this marked the first time a reigning British monarch has been at a Catholic funeral in a formal capacity since the Reformation. The Requiem Mass was celebrated by the Archbishop of Westminster, Cardinal Vincent Nichols. Edward, share with us who the Duchess of Kent was, the role her Catholic faith played in her life, and discuss the significance of this first Catholic funeral in over 300 years.
Yes, well, the Duchess of Kent was married to the first cousin of Queen Elizabeth II, so she was not a blood royal. She was married into the royal family. She was what's called a commoner. She came from non-royal, but she was an aristocrat. And she married into the royal family. I think they were married over 60 years. But in 1994, she converted to the Catholic faith after a period of suffering, and she saw the church really as what she liked most about it was its clear guidelines and the fact that you knew where you stood with the church. That was one of the key things that attracted her, and also the solace that it provided, the faith provided. But yes, it's very significant that as a Catholic convert in the royal family, that that it's the first time for 300 years, as you say, and it's yes, it's highly significant, and also it was interesting that her children also, well, her son, Lord Nicholas Windsor, became a Catholic. I believe you've had him on the program before, and
yes, I did,
and also I think her grandchildren also converted as well. So so it's very interesting in the sense that it wasn't so long ago when Catholics were shunned in England, and it's really changed since then. There isn't that anti-Catholic prejudice really much anymore, and so this also helps that change that sort of that old history and tradition too of that sort of prejudice. So yes, it's
look, our condolences. Yeah, our condolences to the entire family, and certainly she was an amazing lady, and to Nicholas and the whole family, our condolences go out to them. President and Mrs. Trump this week are in the UK as guests of King Charles, and this is President Trump's second state visit, Ed, one that has been filled with British pageantry. Here's what the president had to say at the state dinner at Windsor Castle.
Melania and I are deeply grateful to you and Queen Camilla for your extraordinary graciousness. It's a singular privilege to be the first American president welcomed here. This is truly one of the highest honors of my life. Such respect for you and such respect for your country.
Ed, tell us why this visit is important to both countries, and why is it significant? President Trump is the only president that has ever had two state visits to the UK.
Well, there's always been this strong, special relationship, of course, Raymond, between our two countries, and I think it's seen very much as part of that. President Trump is very much an Anglophile. Of course, his mother was Scottish, so he really loves the country, and it's really a sort of recognition of that sort of mutual respect and recognition of his, of that great appreciation he has for the country as well. And there's a lot of commonalities in terms of trade and politics as well in some senses, but there's also I think quite a bit of envy among some in England who look upon the Trump administration and what it's done after 9 months and the way it's governed and led, and something that I think people feel is lacking in Britain at the moment, and I think there's a great appreciation for that sort of as I say, that governance and leadership, especially on immigration, for example, which is a big issue here. And the problems with illegal immigrants coming into the country. So I think there's a lot of respect there. Obviously, there's a lot of opposition too. There's a lot of people who aren't favourable to President Trump. But I think there's a growing, groundswell of support. There was a large march in London last week. I think between 1 and 2 million people at least, really pushing for the same sort of values, the same sort of governance that President Trump has shown here in Britain as well. And so, and also a great appreciation for Charlie Kirk. There was a minute held in memory of him during that march. So it's all very much a lot of mutual respect there.
Yeah, no, and I know there were people who turned out for President Trump because, as you mentioned, they're looking for leadership in Britain, and they see this leadership in the United States, particularly on these issues that they feel they're grappling with now: illegal immigration, not being respected around the world, a loss of sovereignty and prestige in the world, and they see Trump as kind of reanimating that in the American project. But something I want your perspective on here. Something I perceive, it's almost like Trump gives the royals permission to relax. They're in such great form and humor wherever he shows up, whether it's reviewing the guard or the welcoming ceremony when when Kate and Prince William met him on the tarmac. There's a conviviality, there's a joy that I see from them. Is this Are they trying to telegraph that this is sort of the leadership that they'd like to see in the British context?
Well, what I've heard, Raymond, is that, and from quite good sources, that the royal family do really like President Trump. The Queen Elizabeth II, liked him very much, and in fact, I heard also that she thought he was she found him to be the favorite president that she met, and it's because he treated her like a human being, not as a some lofty unreachable sovereign. He treated her very much like a human being, and I think she appreciated that very much. And I think they really do like him very much. And but there's another aspect to this, I think, too, which is, of course, I don't know if it's the royal family's in favor of this, but I mean, President Trump has tackled head on the sort of secular atheistic mindset and the sort of wokeism that's happened across the Western world, and tackled it head on. And I think there's a lot of respect for that. And I think that's, bringing back Christian values, letting the Christian voice be heard again. I think that's very much liked in this country as well by not everybody, but I think by a growing number of people. Yeah.
Well, you see that. You see it. I mean, it's a global phenomenon. You see it happening. And anyway, I think the visit it was rather extraordinary. First of all, just on the numbers, that why are you giving a president a second state visit? And I do think it speaks to that general kindness and affinity they have for Trump, the royal family does. I want to talk about Rome before I let you go. At the Vatican last Saturday, tens of thousands gathered for what was titled a Grace for the World concert. This dovetailed with the World Meeting on Human Fraternity, a kind of, this was, of course, Pope Francis's initiative. More than 3,000 drones illuminated the night sky. Some of them were quite pretty. There was a Pietà, Jesus on the cross. But then there was also the image of Pope Francis floating over the basilica. There was a hip-hop performance. The event was produced by Pharrell Williams and other performers, Andrea Bocelli and Jennifer Hudson, Jelly Roll. There have been some controversy about that drone projection, particularly of Pope Francis in particular. Your thoughts on that? And we should note, Pope Leo was not present at the concert.
Yes. I mean, I wasn't there, but I have seen pictures of it, Raymond. And I think, and what I've heard also is that, yes, it was very impressive. The technology was very impressive. And it was, something very novel. But I think there was a great sense that it wasn't really appropriate for such a holy place. This, the head of the Catholic Church, the center of the Catholic Church there. I think many felt it was almost profaned the place in a sense. But as I say, it was very impressive. But I think there was that sense that it was just not really fitting to be there.
Yeah, and there have been concerts, and just for the record, because I've attended one or two of them, there have been concerts at the Paul VI Hall, which you'll remember under John Paul's reign. They would often have celebrities come in and do kind of a Christmas concert, and Rai would broadcast it. But somehow that was more contained, and it didn't quite have, as you said, occupy the sacred space of St. Peter's Basilica. By the way, the spot where Peter actually died in the middle of that basilica, or darn near it. Yes. So there is something, I get the tenderness that some feel about this. I'll give you the last word.
Yes, and the point is that that's where obviously St. Peter was martyred, and yes, it's sacred ground, and it's really, I think Paul VI Hall is quite something else. But yes, to be there is really not appropriate, I think people felt.
Yeah, and that when I saw that drone go up, I thought for a moment it was a balloon, like the Macy's, balloons going up of Pope Francis, but it wasn't. It was a drone, but it was actually pretty lifelike, I have to say, whether people liked it or not. Yes. Anyway, Edward, we'll leave it there. You can follow Ed Pentin's reporting and columns on X at Edward Pentin. Thank you, Ed.